It does.
I wind up being very concerned.
Also, the chat works at the beginning of the stream, which is fucking new, isn't it? Isn't that great?
I know, right? Also, all the pagans showing up and setting everything on fire. I see you, Phalanx. I see what's going on.
So just so everybody knows, everyone who is a mod, the rule is this. If you are also, we are going to first, as we begin the stream, say hello. Okay, now the hellos are out of the way.
Ah! I think it's hammered out time.
Unlike Tuesday, when it wasn't hammered out.
Yeah, Tuesday was not hammered out. This is totally hammered out. Maybe.
Yeah, this one is definitely.
It's up to the audience what's hammered out and what's not hammered out, really.
Yeah, hammered out is a social. Hammered out is a social construct. So just bicker amongst yourselves.
Right. Everybody can decide at the end of this episode whether or not it's hammered out. It is on Thursday. We did the pagan bar crawl again. And one thing that I want to let you know, Cyrus, is that you are featured in my video that came out today.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Why?
Yes. Well, I mentioned bread.
Oh.
Yeah. And the mere mention of bread was enough to have a little cartoon Cyrus pop up at the bottom of the screen. And then disappear.
So I have gone ahead and made Jen Aldrich a new moderator. We've not had consistent moderators lately, as the streams have been smaller than what they used to be before the channel hijacking. So I've gone ahead and made another moderator.
A new
Jen.
Moderator.
I figured if anybody should be a moderator, it's the person who breathes fire. I feel like that's a responsible decision.
Lord help you if anybody decides to be a troll in the chat with Jen down there with a wrench. Like, because the whole thing will be on fire. Not only that, but all the pagans will set everything on fire. And then, I don't, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Jen, I do not choose my mods based on who I trust when it comes to my chat. I choose my mods based off of a variety of whims. MUI
that
Pikachu,
he doesn't trust you.
MUI Pikachu became a mod because I accidentally modded him and said, fuck it, it's staying. Tony became a mod because we got in a fight, and I said, holy shit, you actually are willing to fight with me and not be a dickbag. Congratulations, you have a wrench. So...
Oh boy.
Gainer is a mod for consistency's sake because he's...
it's a mod over on your server too, and mine.
Yeah, they're a mod over on my server.
Yeah.
So... Yeah, there you go.
Shout out to the mods in the chat. Definitely. We give them all wrenches. So.
That's a hammer, Ocean.
I know.
That said, Ocean, how are you doing today?
Not good. No, I'm all right. You know, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
It was at that point that we understood that Socian's Socian. I tried to say Ocean's antisocial, and I ended up just saying Socian.
I just generally don't like people.
Yeah, I know. You were supposed to be here, you fucker.
Trying to find a wrench to pull out, and the only thing I could find is screwdrivers. So you know, whatever. My joke failed.
Praise the mods for they inherited the wrenches. Their wrenches were given by the divine
Socian
right
is
of kings.
anti-social. There we go.
Socian is anti-social.
Socian is when I'm like, you know, actually happy to hang around with people. The rest of the time, I'm not. Anywho. Let's see. Socian, I'm sorry, do you mean a new ship name? Cirrus and Ocean together is Socian.
I also may have just gotten...
Or is it Oceus?
I'm so sorry, everybody. I just got a piece of fan art in. Someone was waiting.
Already?
Someone was waiting.
Oh, no.
To drop the fan art.
So we had a predator in the bushes.
And speaking of that, this is me needing to put the bread down from Safwolf.
It is put the bread down. Oh my god.
It is perfect.
That is fucking beautiful. Oh my god.
And as is tradition now,
oh wow.
Safwolf, that is an incredibly detailed piece of fan art. That is great.
That did not start it. You didn't start making that at the beginning of this show.
No.
That was lying and waiting. And it was specifically released for this. That's amazing. I fucking love that.
But as is tradition,
it's adorable. It's got your hood.
I know.
Yeah,
It's great.
That's amazing.
Also, which do you guys prefer in the chat? Everybody in the chat. That is the question. Do you prefer when I try to modify the color of Hammered Out the show itself, the background here, knowing that it will mix with the red of the lava in the forge we are in, or do you prefer when I change the actual color of the room? Because now Safwolf has to pick a color, and we need to figure out if it is the color of the show or if it is the color of the room.
Personally, I think it's hilarious when you run into all the trouble of trying to change the color of your lights rather than risking the technological shutdown that is the technological struggle of the struggle of changing the technology of changing the color on the stream.
Okay, let's see, for show, or there we go. We're gonna have to ask Safwolf for show or room. We're doing. So I have everything set up now to easily do this. Without,
someone responded, showroom.
Showroom. Look, you can pick your shows and you can pick your rooms, but you can't pick your showrooms.
Wait a minute.
Anything I can do to help?
No, Google. There's nothing you can do to help.
If only Google could help. Let's see. There's so much bread here, and I've seen less gluten than at an Italian pizza festival.
I mean,
Navardia, I don't know what that means. Also purple.
Yeah.
Anyway, the struggle of technology.
The struggle of technology.
So, you have an article, right, Cirrus? There's a reason why we have called this meeting of Hammered Out at midnight.
Correct.
Why did we do this?
There is an article to read.
95 people watching in the middle of the fucking night.
Of course there is.
We went live. Is it Thursday? It was technically when we started.
Okay, I gotta open up. Where'd it go? God damn it. I was ready. I was good, and then suddenly...
There's a guy who's decided to boil atheism down to 7 parts. Not 5 like Voltron, but 7.
But the more
like the Trinity.
But the more pieces you have, the better, right? Just gotta link them all up together? That's what I was told, right?
Yeah. For reasons.
For reasons. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Reasons.
I am very upset. There was a background. Where did it go?
H in the chat if it's still Thursday for you. We need to see if we're going to be able to get this article up by the time Thursday ends. Cirrus will be taking about an hour to find this article and put it into Hammered Out.
Ocean, it's 12:05.
It's still kind of Thursday.
Kind of Thursday?
7, like the Trinity, says Jack. Well, yes.
7 like the Trinity?
Yep.
Okay.
There's 7 parts like the Trinity.
All right, so the show has to be blue. That was what Aura Echoes decided.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to see, can I actually get the stream to be significantly blue without making it terribly purple?
You're terribly purple.
Your face is terribly purple. That tasted purple. Anybody who's been watching Twitch streams understands. At least I hope.
I'm concerned.
Why are you concerned?
Okay?
Boom.
I don't know. Okay.
Background is... wait, what? Why is the background red? Why? I tried to save it as blue and all I got was this communism. That's not... Wasn't what I was trying to go for. What? No, come back. I'm so confused. Ocean, please save me from this.
No.
No?
No. I'm just going to leave you to it.
Just going to leave me to it? Okay.
Yep. You're gonna have all the technology issues ever, and that is fine. Now it's blue.
But it's just blue.
It's just blue.
What is the... That is not...
Is it the wrong color?
Yes.
Oh.
Blue is not the color of communism.
Yes, it is.
What?
It is now.
Since when?
We have seized the means of blueduction.
What? Are you okay? Oh my god.
All colors, yes, all colors are communism. We have seized the means of red and have given it to all the colors, comrade.
Okay. All colors are.
Now red. Okay.
You know what that reminds me of for some reason?
You have an article.
I do, and there's also, oh my god, I hate. Does anybody know
this blue on here looks like an eyesore? I'm just gonna let you fucking know. Make it purple. There we go. Okay, cool.
Is that better? Is the current?
We're gonna
one
get
better?
into that fight like the fairies in Sleeping Beauty. Make it pink. Make it blue. And then it becomes like, I think the dress in the end actually looked the coolest with like the whole tie-dye splatter all over it. I was like, that's awesome.
So there's a
But
thing.
then they didn't like it because nobody likes chaos in Disney World. Anyway, go ahead.
It's a thing that I have to do apparently, and that is to tell Windows system sounds to stop beeping. I know that it's not properly blue yet. Shut the fuck up.
Your face isn't properly blue.
Your mother isn't properly blue.
Oh no.
There we go.
So,
the blue is
we
now
have
made
this article.
purple. The timer starts now. There we go.
Is there any?
The article! Aha!
There's an article that we're here to discuss, Cirrus.
Yes,
We
there
have
is.
something to do.
There is. The 7 types of atheists. They spoke to philosopher John Gray about the many different forms of atheists that exist today.
I didn't know who John Gray was. until now.
And why the majority of them suck. I am deeply offended.
Why
Let's
the
go.
majority of them suck.
Doggo
can't
is
help-
right there.
I can't help but think that that's really funny.
Let's go.
Why the majority of them suck. Let's talk about how atheism sucks.
All right.
On
So,
Hammered Out on an atheist channel.
not believing it. Okay, so do I do it? Do I do this in a voice, or do I do this legitimately? Is the question.
Not believing in God has always seemed perfectly sensible to me, but also a bit of a tedious thing to discuss. Of course, that hasn't stopped so-called new atheists like Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, and Sam Harris, and their annoyingly fanatical online acolytes, Link, banging on about exactly what they don't believe in all the time, hey? John Gray, renowned English philosopher, is tired of new atheists and considers their thinking shallow. The author is not a religious believer, but he insists that his non-belief is far more strange and subtle business, or he insists that non-belief is a far more strange and subtle business. Now, Gray has written a new book called The 7 Types of Atheism, revealing the surprising variety of perspectives among your religionists. It also explores some odd assumptions we make about ourselves and the world once we've decided that the idea of God in the garbage. To throw the idea of God in the garbage, oh dear. I spoke to Gray about the wide ranges of ways to ponder your place in a cold and unfathomable universe. Also, we need to turn the ship to starboard sharply.
I'm a philosopher, not a doctor.
All right.
Okay.
So he continues. We're talking. He's like, you're quite hard on the new atheism of Richard Dawkins and others. What frustrates you about their way of thinking? And
So the question is,
Yeah.
what voice does John Gray have here?
oh, I don't. Do we
I-
need to make voices for everybody?
I am going to determine. Okay, guys. H,
It's a trap.
H in the chat.
That it sounded
H in the chat for Tristan Taylor from Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series.
Oh no. God.
G in the chat for Mickey Mouse. Let's see what we get. That's H first. H
Oh, in the
H
chat for me to read the entire thing in that fucking weird ass voice I was doing.
H fucking H. H. There's a couple of G's now, but it's mostly H. All right, it looks like it's H.
All right, we're getting some O's now.
My
but
name
I
is
hear- I see
Tristan
the-
Timothy Taylor, and my
Oh,
voice gives
God.
me super strength.
Okay.
Oh my god. This is a very serious show.
It is their idea of religion as a failed scientific theory of everything, a primitive science. When it comes to the Genesis myth, even the early Christian scholars said, you mustn't read this with a literal rendition of fact. It's a mistake to confuse religious fundamentalists with the vast, rich tradition of religious life. Religion is not an explanatory theory of the world. It is a way of making sense of the living in the world.
So, not gonna lie, I don't see
Make
much.
it end in all caps.
I don't see much difference between those two statements.
It's
not to make it
kind of. It's not so. It's hard to say that, like, when you get into explanatory theory, you're starting to get into predictive capability.
Mm-hmm.
At which point, with the gods, we're talking about agents. So a lot of religion isn't trying to give like the predictive capability that things like science are as much. Although there are elements of that, you might say. But the thing that I agree with him here is that you mustn't read this as a literal rendition of fact is a very common thing throughout history. That's something that I learned fairly quickly jumping into paganism. It's like we call this among pagans mythic literalism. There's very few heathens that are mythic literalists, but there's a lot of Christians that are. And you find this with like young earth creationists. Pagan young earth creationist types are extremely rare. You don't really find polytheists who are like, yeah, the earth was literally a skull but you also don't have the same kind of propagandists in heathenry that are like, you know.
Oh my god. Somebody in the chat. Attention, duelists! My hair is telling you to board the boat!
My voice gives me super strength.
Ah, but my hair gives me the power to defy gravity!
Oh my god. But yeah, if there were like heathen apologists, like if we had a heathen Kent Hovind, it was going around and going, as you could tell, there were several scientists that actually discovered that the earth is actually a skull. You know, like that would be an interesting thing. This is the
but as it turns out, I'm a
episode of
pagan,
Voices.
and God skull fucked the earth, and that's what made life. And spermia.
Oh.
That's how panspermia came to be.
Someone says, Ocean Kelto, you could be that apologist. I could be that mistake in human history. That would be it.
Gets in I didn't know that Cirrus was going to sound like Bullwinkle J. Muse. I change it. Guys.
Kent Heathen. Oh my fucking god, celery. Oh, my name is Kent Heathen. I'm here to discuss the the origins of the universe, as scientifically demonstrated to be the heathen Eddas.
I'm sad that people didn't know what Tristan's voice sounds like in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series. Like, guys, okay, that's also the timer telling me. Fuck, I forgot! No, timer, stop! Where is my timer? Where did I put it? Stop!
Can chat hear this timer going
Oh my
off like
god,
crazy
yes,
as well?
they can!
Oh my goodness.
Guys, if you didn't know what Tristan's voice sounded like in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series, here you go for reference.
Wheeler, you selfish bastard!
Shut up, Tristan. You just want to get into Serenity's pants.
No, I
What do you-
don't.
what do you-
I want
what
to
do you
have
mean?
sex with her.
Here you go, Ocean. The first few seconds is all you need.
I'm concerned. I've seen Yu-Gi-Oh! The Abridged series.
Yes, but specifically the part that they just watched or listened to. You just want to get in my sister's pants.
No, I don't. I want to have sex with her.
Oh my god. Oh. The things I learned on this show.
They're always useless too, aren't they?
There's 7 types of atheists.
There are, apparently.
So, yeah, you get these people that think. Let's get back to the fucking article. So you get these people that think that religion is a failed scientific theory of everything, when it's a different thing, you know.
The color is now
I
purple,
think
as per Navardia.
it's basically a giant committing of category error, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, because so it depends though. There are certainly aspects.
Oh, it's a category error. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I'd say it's more of a scope error. because there are certain, especially within Christianity, there are certain explanatory aspects.
Yes. When you get into young Earth creationism or something like that, or if you, there's other elements as well. But,
yeah,
I don't know what example you're thinking of, but
I was thinking just like for moral arguments. Whenever somebody goes, okay, well, why are there rapists in the world? And people who use the Bible.
Yeah, those explanatory things.
Yeah,
but
like
that's
there's
more of like Christian philosophy rather than the religion itself necessarily. Like I don't like
True,
you
but
don't
as long
hear
as
the
the
Kalam preached about or in churches or the problem of evil, that kind of stuff. Like Plantinga is never talked about on the pulpit unless you're in like a very specialized church.
if Plantinga was talked about on the pulpit, then maybe some of the Christians I've had conversations with wouldn't be so fucking easy to mess with.
I agree with you that if imagine if church is like an hour or two every Sunday for
That's
something.
enough time to study apologetics and get better at it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like because they spend a lot of time, like pastors, a lot of pastors are lazy. If they're having I was just talking about some random biblical story that the chat or the congregation already knows about, and they're not talking about like something more meaty, and they could, like that's enough to slowly advance the understanding of your flock as a pastor. If you have an hour a week,
just do a Bible story for 30 minutes and do 30 minutes talking about apologetics, because at least at that point you wouldn't have so many Christians that just don't want to have that conversation. They'll at least have been
prepared.
They'd at least be prepared to have that conversation. And you know what? I feel as though the end result.
But that's not
a
kind of atheist.
That's not a kind of atheist. But I feel as though that type of Christian would engage with these types of atheists more.
Yeah, and better, and they'd probably win more. But right now, it's just like a handful of Christians that occasionally do well, like this. I hesitate to say his name. There's a new apologist Christian I've been watching. He gets in a lot of fights with Scholar Fiction that I think is an interesting guy. I haven't looked into all of his stuff very much, so I don't want to
Wouldn't that produce an endless wave of cupcakes? If Cupcake were a good apologist, maybe. But
Cupcake's a terrible apologist.
He is.
I think that if he knew more about philosophy, he wouldn't be as ridiculous as he is.
He's the level of apologist that thinks that granting a premise is accepting your worldview.
Right.
If you can't engage with a hypothetical, you're below bottom of the barrel. Sorry. That is like that's the same thing with that deflate guy that's recently like popped up. If you cannot engage with a hypothetical, you are below the bottom of the barrel. That is how that works. That is the earliest fucking shit you can learn as a 14-year-old.
You.
So, anyway, $5 from Red because things need to be on fire. If I have to listen to this Waste of Oxygen article and Ocean's doing apologist voices. But see, the thing is that I didn't actually see a $5 pop up. What? I'm confused.
No, the $5 is on the Super Chat.
It's in Super Chat. Okay, that's why I didn't see
chat.
it. Yay. I like things being useful and functional, and they're not. There we go.
So I think the first one he's talking about are basically category error atheists, who are typically the ones that really want to fight creationism. It seems. You know what I mean? Like the Richard Dawkins types.
They're the types who they just read The God Delusion, and they're like, all right, I'm ready to square up with my family. That type.
Oh my God.
What?
What was that?
Alex Jones.
I feel that. The other really widespread way of doing atheism is secular humanism. Why is it that you think the humanists are misguided and are actually just repeating religious ideas?
The whole idea of progress comes from monotheistic religion, from Christianity in particular, and from the post-millennialism that says that Christ will return one day, but only after we improve the world. The secular humanists have replaced the idea of God with the idea of humanity, an agent with a common set of goals that is gradually realized over time. Humanity is part of a story with redemptive meaning, so the secular humanists haven't shed a way of thinking that comes from monotheism. In the pre-Christian world, they never assumed progress would occur. History has no redemptive significance.
So I have
Can I get like an H from the Hellenists in the chat that think that that's absolutely ridiculous?
yeah
Because anybody anybody that's Hellenist or CDR Cultus Deorum Romanorum is going to look at that and go, what in fuck are you fucking talking about? Because this is like pre-Christian religions were concerned with progress. Absolutely. What is this fucking idea that Christianity invented progress? That is, like, the whole idea of Rome was based on the idea of progress.
Growlithe, what are you doing? Why are you
The idea of like going to the ancient Greeks. They were concerned about this too. It's where Christians got it. It's where Christians got a lot of their ideas.
like
It's on
the
Greek
idea
philosophy.
the idea that at no point before just 2,000 years ago people were concerned with progress.
I missed
Progress-
the part where Jesus was talking about progress. What where was that?
Conservative Jesus
I don't
doesn't
know.
want progress.
I don't know where. I'm actually trying to think. I don't know what they're talking about with respect to progress from
Conservative Jesus cannot have progress. What are you
this.
talking about?
It sounds like a fucking like Protestant exceptionalism thing, Protestant work ethic shit.
Yeah. Work ethic
what I mean?
didn't exist. I tell you what, nobody learned how to pull themselves up by their bootstraps before Jesus told them to. And them friggin' liberals. That's exactly what that fucking sounds like. But it's weird because, like, if at that point it sounds like he's trying to take just apologia from Christians and regurgitate it. Like this isn't a profound historical philosopher. This is somebody literally cucking to Christian apologists. Oh my god, I love it. I love it when Anderson and everyone else, trying to think of prominent, Frank Turek. I love it when Frank Turek bends over my ideals and fucks them with good old Protestantism. Excellent. You okay, Ocean?
Wow. That's all I have to say about that is just wow. So yeah. No, I think that this is it's just bad research. Which is funny because, like, one of the things that I noticed when I was getting my history degree is that we were studying philosophers, and whenever philosophers in philosophy, great philosophers, would discuss history, they were usually saying things that were a little idiotic. Like I think it's Locke, and I want to say, yeah, there's a few that when they talk about the idealistic times before civilization where humans all got along.
What?
You know what I mean? Yeah, no, that's the thing.
Humans all got
like-
along, but it was before civilization when the humans wouldn't have been interacting.
Well, no,
That sounds like the ideal for
when
the
you-
hardcore libertarian.
When you look at Mesolith and nomadic periods, or Paleolithic, like Paleolithic and Mesolithic periods, humans did not get the fuck along.
They didn't all get along.
No.
After we discovered that we could create weapons to turn them on animals to get more food quicker, we turned them on each other when we thought people were stealing our food.
Right, exactly.
What?
It's like, oh, this spear works when I do that. Hey, I don't like that guy.
Hey, when the tasty red stuff comes out of the rhinoceros, it dies. I wonder if that will happen to Joe down the street who just put up the fucking white picket fence I don't like. Let's try it.
White picket fence.
Yes, in the
You have a
Paleolithic
strange
area.
image of Paleolithic living.
I mean, they were all rocks.
I'm
but
gonna
it's-
send you pictures of Catalhoyok, and it's actually, you know what? White picket fence. Sure, sure. We're gonna go with that.
You look back there and suddenly there's somebody went back there with a time machine and everything
It's
is white picket fence.
No, there's not only that, but there's like a hedge with a shrubbery. It's like, anyway. So
We are now the knights who say. Also, as per Jen, we are now very red. Question is, when we're red, do we just use the regular background, or do we actually have the flaming red aura? I don't know. It is time! Let me grab my nearest red thing. Yes. What?
Spicy.
Are you confused as to why I have a random bottle of Tabasco at my desk?
That's a spicy hot take there, sirs. Anyway, so
I have it for chicken nugget.
the other widespread way of doing atheism. Do you do atheism, Soros?
I love it when Frank Turek does the atheism in doggy style.
Why did I sign up for this show? So,
A year and a half of your life wasted.
humanism. He was talking about humanism is the third kind of atheist. So the first kind of atheist.
Wait, what? No, humanism
No,
was
that's
the second kind.
Never mind.
The
mind.
third
Second
kind is faith in science.
We got to get the close encounters of the. I had a close encounter with the third kind.
I have it
This
right
is the
here.
second one.
Right here for
So-
everybody to see.
All right, so we're doing atheism.
You need to
We've
properly
replaced
do
God with this
atheism.
idea of humanity. Right. So we bitched about fucking
So does this mean
like
the
that
seven?
originates everything in monotheism, and it's like the dumbest fucking
Does
thing.
this mean
I
the
think
seven?
that
I think the 7 types of atheists are officially cowgirl, reverse cowgirl, doggy style, missionary,
do you have a list?
hogtie.
Oh my god.
Downward dog.
Help me. Help me. All right.
And then if you're really creative, spit roast atheism.
It's actually called the Eiffel Tower. You got to give a high five. Anyway,
Dangly
So-
parts.
Anyway, so we're talking about humanism. I just like when towards the end of this article, they talk about favorite kinds of atheists, and usually the ones I can get along with are secular humanist types, or just humanists in general, even if they're not, I mean, especially if they're not secular.
Typically, that means you'll probably have a shared set of goals.
Right. Yeah. With humanists, I can at least identify what's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but with, the way his criticism of it being like, that's just Christianity. There are certain parts of me that kind of agree, but the rest of what he's saying is like Christianity discovered the idea of progress, and that's what they're ganking is a little dumb.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is a lot of latent Christianity in humanism, though.
I mean, there definitely can be, but the thing is that usually that comes down to humanism as it is in the manifesto, or as per the individual. But humanism just as an idea, strive for making the world better for humanists. I think the only latent Christianity we have there is maybe a little bit of exceptionalism,
Right.
personally, but that's just
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
theory.
Okay. I can see that, the exceptionalism element, because humanists tend to. It can be a proclivity of humanists to be all like Western civilization, like that.
The beginning of Western civilization was very. No, actually, the beginning of Western civilization began when we accepted that man is the opposite of the manifestation
That's
of chaos.
actually Kermit the Frog.
Yes. What are you talking about?
Oh no, you have to understand that if we're going to be going into the ideas expressed by Jordan Peterson, that we have to actually examine the chaos inherent within our society, and then we could go into there's a discussion that we can have about lobsters and the religions that they discovered. Lots and lots of lobsters actually got together and created Christianity, and then the idea of Jesus, as a metaphorical truth that they then passed on to humanity.
If
through
I
their
keep having to
hierarchical
listen to
structure.
this hack philosopher, I'm gonna commit a murder.
This is such a strange episode.
Is it though? Is it
This
really?
is really weird.
in the comparison to every Hammered Out with all
But
the weird
look,
fucking fan art we've gotten, this is the strange episode.
This is a very odd episode. I can actually say that this episode is covered in degeneracy.
I ran around for 2 hours on live stream on Twitch in VR chat as Kermit the Frog with the voice,
I don't
just
think
assailing
that
people.
I don't I don't think that you have the true and understanding of the inordinate principles of lobsterians in order to really understand where we're about to go with this idea.
Then I guess we need to
Atheism,
get a- we need to
atheism is just a sign of the degeneracy of humanity. You have to understand that, yeah. Stuff,
I think we
things,
need to get somebody who's an
objects.
expert on lobsterism. Is Callan available in the chat?
I just learned to understand object permanence, so I'm not really equipped to have this conversation. Anyway, so
Is this the show? Is this the show where we debut it?
So we're just gonna make fun of Jordan Peterson the entire time.
You can make fun of Jordan Peterson, but you can't make fun of the things he's done for Western civilization.
Oh my God!
Bill
what is this
C-16 was
improv show
tyranny.
hammered out that we're doing? All right. Anyway, humanism. At least we know what's up. Pre-Christian world. His observations about Christian world are stupid. We're gonna scroll down. Is there a third kind of atheism that you identify with? Faith. There's a third one you identify, which is faith in science. I talk about this one sometimes. Scientism and that kind of shit.
This is when people try to use fucking science as an epistemology, which it's not. So don't fucking try that. Please stop it. Please stop.
Science is an epistemology.
No, it's not. Stop it.
Hey, chat. Science is an epistemology.
It is a methodology. Do not do this
This
category shit.
This is what I had this in a script and I sent it to Cirrus. And Cirrus sent me across multiple forms of messenger in all capital letters that science is not an epistemology and that I can go, just jump in a river or some shit. Like there was a lot of expletives, but it is a methodology of determining likelihood. So yeah, that's a thing. And scientism is basically just like putting a straight up faith in that we cannot know anything unless we know it through science, which is a little dumb, because it winds up putting you in a position of you cannot verify a lot of the elements that science is based on in order to get to any knowledge. So it's like it's a vicious cycle there. It's also this problem also arose in logical positivism, which fell out of fashion in the philosophy world in like the early 20th century, I think. But it's
The idea that
like,
the idea that
atheists
you
talk
can
about-
know
talk
anything
like-
for sure.
yeah.
I'm like, no, you can't. Newsflash: most people will agree you cannot know anything for sure, but you can accept things with reasonable probability. That's all science does as well. Is it accepts things with reasonable probability by elimination. It tries to eliminate other things, and it leaves you with stuff. It's why the first thing you do with the scientific method is you don't try to prove your hypothesis right. You try to prove it wrong.
Right.
And when you try to prove it wrong, if it routinely
And then you fail.
yeah, and if you fail to prove it wrong, and then your peers fail to prove it wrong, and multiple people fail to prove it wrong, then it's accepted because you've gone through process of elimination. You tried to eliminate it,
Right.
and it's still here, and then you could accept it as a body of facts that can then become a body of information for a theory. Hypotheses do not become theories.
But you have to have a method of falsification.
Yes, there has to be an accurate method of falsification, which is
Right.
why
Which
science...
is the reason why a lot of this religion stuff doesn't get into it, because there isn't really a method of falsification for a lot of it.
Correct.
For certain claims, like once you get into creationism and mythic literalism and a few other things, you're going to get into a point where it's like, no, that's wrong. Kent Hovind. It wasn't. The lizards weren't bigger because of the higher air pressure. Okay. So, whatever. Science is a big titty goth girlfriend with genetically modified cat ears. Ooh woo. Would you turn the stream to a nice C phone, please?
That's going to be a little hard to do, but actually, I have a way that I might be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to do that with color, but I actually have a way that I might be able to manage that. Allow me to go into my now massive backgrounds folder.
If that's what science was, though, I'd be more excited about it. I'm already pretty excited about it, but I would definitely be more excited about it if it was a goth girlfriend with genetically modified cat ears.
So, I cannot give you a sea foam, but I can take us under the sea.
Bring in the uwus.
And then I just need to pull this down here.
Oh, what are we doing? Oh,
we are
no.
now under the sea ocean.
What is that in the distance there? Is that a brontosaurus under the sea?
Yeah. It's a little Loch Ness monster.
Oh,
We are now-
It's a plesiosaur, not a fucking brontosaur.
No,
Fuck.
definitely Brontosaurus ocean, just to make you
Definitely a bron. God,
upset.
no!
Just to upset you.
H in the chat if you know what a diplodocus is.
I definitely
Anyway.
could not grab what I wanted for you guys, and I'm so sorry about that, and that is why I have decided to turn us all into the ocean. We are now all one with ocean.
Oh boy. So anyway, what are your thoughts on scientism, Cirrus?
My thoughts... I wonder what happens if I do the screen there. Oh, no, that's bad. No. My thoughts on scientism are... Don't. Just don't. Just don't. Just don't. Mainly because there are things that science cannot tell you. For one, science cannot tell you if it is moral to do a thing. If it is... And if science cannot tell you if it is moral to do a thing, then trying to use it to do that, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, I agree with his criticism about whether that science can't tell you morality. Although as much as Sam Harris wants to. You know.
Problem is that the moral landscape thing is functionally not much different than fucking Eggman's... Not Eggman. I mean, yes, Eggman.
Eggman.
Stephen Molyneux. There we go. That was his name.
Oh, the egg guy.
Yes.
Stefan.
He doesn't deserve...
Not Steven.
He doesn't deserve that. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I
I'm not saying his name right.
But his...
Tim Molyneux.
His thing is the UPG thing, or like universal preferred behavior, which I feel is not not UPG.
UPG
or
is my thing.
UPB. Universally preferable behavior.
Not my thing. I didn't create it. It's a paid
I
thing.
feel as though that is very close to the moral landscape, and that's kind of one of my issues with it. It's
Right.
it's the moral landscape without the science, and that doesn't make it better or worse. That just makes it equally bad.
Yeah, that's true. But you know, the moral landscape, it doesn't. I think that Sam Harris even comments that at the base of it, you can't get your axioms, your moral axioms, with science.
No, which
the
is true.
problem. So, but you could probably come up with scientific justifications for, once you have your axioms, you can verify your actions through scientific analysis.
Well, yeah, because at that point
That's
you're
probably
taking
true.
your axioms and treating them as hypotheses, which now puts them in the category where they can be analyzed with...
No, not your axioms, but the effect of your axioms. Say well-being. I can't put you can determine if an action enhances well-being. You cannot determine if well-being is good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's...
that's you can't do anything with the Azot.
Yeah.
Gap
No, that's fair.
with
That's
science.
fair. I can understand that. So you're treating the end result as the hypothesis. Like, can I achieve this thing? And then you can't say if well-being is good, but you can say does this increase well-being on the whole?
Right.
And then as long as you have a proper definition for well-being, because if well-being includes something weird like all the pure races are good, but well-being is not all the bad races getting stuff.
What is
That's
this fan art?
seize the means of blueduction.
Oh my god.
Also, that means we have to turn the stream blue in a minute and a half. Seize the means
Blue
of
over the
blueduction.
ocean, though.
Blue over the ocean. Actually,
yeah.
no. I have a better one. I have a better way to do
we
that.
must blue it. We must make the stream bluish.
I can make us still in the ocean. It will just be very blue. Do not worry, ocean.
Good.
I will solve our problems.
Let's see.
Boo! We're back up here. Ah, damn it. Fan art goes
Oh
in
yeah.
front
So
of
what
the
he says
article.
right here is that people can use science to justify racism, imperialism, or even genocide. I have some disagreements on that. It is the science has been used in the past to attempt to justify racism, like you have with the whole Nazi shit.
The problem,
but-
though, is that when you...
It's not good science.
It's
eugenics
not.
wound up being shit science at the end of the day.
Which is why when people like fucking Richard Dawkins tweeted about eugenics that one time a few months ago, it's like, you know,
Like,
eugenics.
it doesn't know what eugenics is. If you're talking about like would can you are there genetic markers in humans? Can you try and select for them and all that kind of crap? Yeah, of course. Nobody's disagreeing with that. But eugenics is the idea that there's something preferable, right? Which the problem with that at the end of the day is similar to the is-ought gap. That there is not, you don't evolve forward. Evolution is about what works within an environment. An animal being bigger or smaller is not preferable, with the exception of dependence on the environment that it's in. This is the reason why you get, like natural selection will get things to be smaller because they can fit into some nook and cranny, or larger because they have less predators when they're bigger, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, or that less predators will try and get to the bigger thing. This is why we have elephants, for example, but or the blue whale. But a shrew can hide in a little hole. Depends on the environment. Depends on what the animal is in the case, and when the environment changes, and then blah 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 blah. Basics of evolution. So eugenics is the idea that there's a perfect human. That's the starting point. So saying that eugenics works isn't saying that humans breed with variation.
Eugenics is saying that humans breed towards a purpose, and if certain people breed together that do not specifically,
it's saying that there
purpose,
are preferable genes to select for.
And if
that's what's going on.
If two people breed and non-preferable genes come through, then the child is worthless.
Right.
Which is how they justified extermination.
Yeah.
Also, we are now in a different kind of underwater that is more blue.
Uh-oh. Is there a pineapple at the bottom of the sea?
No, there's not. There's just bubbles. There's just bubbles because it was requested for blue, and we're here under the ocean with bubbles. With bubbles. That said, there is a fourth kind of atheist.
Okay, let's go to the fourth one.
So,
hold on a second.
Yeah,
I fucked up. Okay. Using science to justify imperialism and genocide. Yeah, we've seen those narratives in the past. They have mostly the same problems. And we also talked about values. Okay, cool. Fourth kind of atheist is the kind that turns politics into a kind of religion. You had something to say about that.
I have several things to say about this.
Yeah, because it was like, it's basically talking about whole... Go ahead. You have something to say.
So first, we need to actually say the thing there, because some people who are listening are listening only viewers. For those who are listening only viewers, I guess I'm not going to do the Tristan voice this time. I should, but I won't. I'll spare you.
We won't. Yeah, we'll spare you this once. I'll read the question real quick. The fourth kind of atheist, the kind who turns politics into a kind of religion. Does this kind of zealotry help explain things like the French Revolution, the rise of Bolshevism, and Nazism?
So, John answers that the millenarian religious movements of the late Middle Ages expected a new world to emerge after a period of catastrophic conflict. For modern revolutionaries, it's humanity that brings in a society different from any history. But both share the myth that history ends with a far better world. Curiously, a version of this belief gripped liberals after the fall of communism. They failed to recognize that what has been gained can always be lost because of the flawed nature of the human animal. The thinkers of the ancient world understood you can always have these cycles of improvement and barbarism. So this sounds, first of all, like a glorification of the past as opposed to looking at it with a realistic lens. We once
kind of, he does. Okay, here's the thing that he identifies correctly, right? He does talk about how like the cycle of improvement and barbarism, and that's what's been gained can be lost, is something that shows up in ancient philosophies. He's got that. Like, we're chill. I think that what he's doing is misidentifying the thought process of revolutionaries, though. Revolutionaries are fighting for something better. That doesn't mean that they believe it's going to be.
A lot of people, myself included, believe in the idea of the long defeat. There is merit in the battle to try to improve things, but expecting them to improve might not ever happen in your lifetime. It might not ever happen at all. But that does not mean that you should sit on.
Doesn't mean stop fighting.
Yeah, it doesn't mean sit on your laurels and don't try. Because if you sit on your laurels and don't try, it is guaranteed that the world will become a worse place. But if you at least try, there is a chance that the world might marginally improve. So again, this is the concept of the long defeat has been around for a very long time.
I like that phrasing, the long defeat. I hadn't heard. I think you have said that to me before.
Yeah,
I'd forgotten about it until just now.
It's a concept that J.R. Tolkien used a lot. The idea that it didn't matter. As an example, it didn't matter that Bilbo got the ring and survived and everything. They still had a greater conflict later that was far worse than the comparatively small scale conflict of the Hobbit. But okay, he still needed to do the things that he did during the small scale conflict, regardless of the fact that a larger one was happening later, and that even the extinction of man might come later on in the story potentially. Doesn't matter. That doesn't mean you should sit down and not fight the fight when it's time to bear up arms.
Right.
So,
Bilbo, you should have just gone fucking home.
Bilbo Baggins walked back to the Shire and ate potatoes. So, the other issue that I have here is there's this idea that people seem to have where politics as a type of religion comes into play, where anybody who is communicating a type of politics to them that is outside of their personal Overton window, that is them trying to insert politics into something. Hey, the Deep Run tram just moved. That is them trying to insert politics into something, period. You get this a lot with your Gamergaters. You get this a lot this is a fucking topic for like the quartering and no bullshit. They constantly go into this like, oh my god, they're trying to insert liberal politics into my shows. Okay, but was it liberal politics inserting to the shows, or was it that conservative politics were pretty normalized beforehand? Like if you look at something like Song of the South in animation history, anything that doesn't like that was a problem within a few years of it coming out, when people realized that, oh wait, this is maybe not a good message to be sending people through children's media, the whole slavery thing. But the fact that that is something that could be produced at that time has to do with the Overton window that existed around that time. Black people being suppressed, while still fairly normal now, was to a much greater degree back then, and therefore
having a black character in Star Wars was inserting politics into it for some reason.
Yes, having a female lead is inserting politics into Star Wars, apparently. And despite the fact that characters in Star Wars canon have done things that Daisy Ridley's character did in Star Wars with just as much training while even younger, she gets blasted as this character is being written as a Mary Sue. Which was the case in the third movie, but the third movie of the new trilogy is
terrible,
hot appeasement garbage.
She wasn't. I didn't get the Mary Sue argument. Didn't land until the third movie.
Yeah, that's.
I think that she was, like there was narrative explanation for her, her fighting skill, her, like. The thing that was like, oh, she can just use a lightsaber. Luke needed tons of training. She'd been living as a fucking scavenger on Jakku, like with that.
She'd been using improvised weapons for years. A lightsaber's not that
right.
difficult.
It's a fairly intuitive. It's like, okay, cool, boom, boom, boom. All right, cool. This is. I understand the difference between this and the weapons I've been using. She's gonna be competent, right? Yeah. So like,
this is the thing.
Anyway,
this is the thing.
That's a fucking rant about.
Yeah, but
wasn't a Mary Sue. She's. Until the third movie. The third movie is ridiculous for a number of reasons, but whatever.
I had a legion of Star Destroyers waiting in the clouds!
Yeah, and the Emperor was a bit of a Mary Sue.
I've had all these cultists. No one ever knew who they were.
It's just like, what?
And now they're gone. You've committed a genocide. Everybody on this planet is now dead thanks to you. But no, with this idea that people are using politics as a religion, while there are some people who can be considered overly political, realistically, politics is just your ideas on the state of the world and what it should be. If you are a bit of a zealot in how you want the world to work, that just means you're a functional human being with passion. You might have that passion for something stupid, like Nazism, but that's functionally all that is. I don't think this is a kind of atheist who uses politics as a religion. Bull fucking shit. There are.
I didn't understand this one.
I don't see that as a type of atheist because I see that just as much. I see that just as much with religious people.
This is like just a political activist who happens to be an atheist.
Yes.
Because I see a lot of political activists.
There are
of
people
varied stripes. You go into there are Christian political movements. There are fucking there's atheist political movements. There's Muslim political movements. You go
we
through
are now red
and
thanks
yes,
to Jen.
Of course. Of course. But yeah, that's I don't know. This one's dumb. I don't think this counts. There's 6 kinds of atheists. These are just people who are politically aware. Some of them happen to be atheists. If the only people that he knows that are politically aware are atheists, that's his fucking fault.
Okay, but Ocean, there are Christians who are humanists.
That's right. We didn't have that conversation with this one, did we? Humanism originates with Christianity. That's the as much as I hate fucking saying it. Here's the red pill. Let me red pill y'all. Humanism starts with fucking Christianity. That's where it originates.
Which is why there's a distinction of secular humanism specifically.
Right.
That distinction exists because of this. So again, we're down to 5 types of atheists, Ocean. We're down to 5 types.
Like among atheist movements, though, here's the thing, the reason why I think it's 5.5, maybe 6.
5.5
is that the humanism one counts because there's a lot of atheists that go, I prefer to identify as a secular humanist. I prefer to identify as a humanist more than as an atheist. You get a lot of people like that.
Yeah,
and then you get a lot of people that are like, in my activism as an atheist, I am guided by humanist values. Those are the kind of things where it's like, and like I said earlier, when you talk about like favorite kinds of the kinds that are being mentioned here, if you want to say that this is exhaustive at all, which I don't think it is, that's one of my favorite ones that he mentioned. Those are the people, again, that I can jive with. It's like, I'm a humanist. I'm like, okay, cool. I know where you're at. And I know where we disagree, likely, because of the atheism thing. So, but I can work with you, because I think he's totally missing pragmatists like yourself.
He's missing pragmatists, and he's also missing, I don't know what you would call the intellectual superiorists. Like, I know that's kind of covered a little. The Brights. I know that's kind of covered in his first one. The religion as a failed scientific theory of primitive science, but there are people who do not accept that framework and still think that by being an atheist they are more smart.
The hoity-toity atheist. I think the problem with that, the reason why he doesn't mention it is because that's the narrator. I'm sorry. That was maybe a little rough. But that's who's making this observation.
Once upon a time,
the 7 points of inferior
there were primitive people who tried to explain how thunder happened, and they came up with the idea of a man in the sky with a hammer.
Moon's haunted. Anyway, so
I should read that entire thread in a Mickey Mouse voice.
Oh no.
If we get what kind of super chat goal or donation goal do I have to set to read that entire thread as a video with just like the Mickey Mouse voice?
What thread are you talking about?
The thread on Twitter about here's what's going on with the moon.
Oh, that. No. Oh my god.
Yeah, you guys aren't seeing the article yet because we're not talking about it right now. It's right here.
All right. Let's go back to the article. Let's move on.
We got
to
the fifth kind, the god haters. I don't think he understands that
these atheists seem obsessed with evil, that they actually have still have some sort of belief in God. I don't know if they still have some sort of belief in God.
This is a fucking Christian talking point. God damn it. Okay, hold up. I have to take this one to task. I fucking hate this shit. Okay, so.
I feel like this is talking about scholar fiction.
And doing it badly. And doing it very badly.
Yeah, it is. Because Skylar doesn't believe in God, But it's Skylar's thing is talking about moral monster. And that's, this is he's the kind of atheist that he's talking about here. I don't think this fits though. You know what I mean? But go ahead. You got a rant.
So let's begin for the listeners only. He says, the existence of evil in the world is a mystery. Christians have come up with fancy arguments for evil, about free will for humankind, and so on, while others just accept the mystery. If you're an atheist and you're interested in evil, it's a short step to say that there must be some element of evil in God, or that the very idea of God is evil. The God-hater is one who can't accept God because of all the evil in the world, and then comes to hate God, but it's actually for another iteration of monotheistic thought. So I agree and disagree. The issue is that it is not that someone has monotheistic thought and therefore can deal with the problem of evil. This is also ignoring the fact.
It's like he's trying to talk about latent Christianity and missing the mark. Go ahead.
It is that there are people who are willing to grant the premise, okay, if I accept that your all good God exists, who was all-powerful and created the world, and the world contains evil, either you're wrong about him being all good, or there's something that needs to be taken out of these definitions. That's the problem of evil. To deal with the problem of evil, you have to grant the premise of theism temporarily. It does not mean that you have an iteration of monotheistic thought. It is that you are granting the state of monotheism for purpose of argument because you are higher than a 4th grade reading level. Now, if he hasn't dealt with any atheist with higher than a 4th grade reading level, then that's his own fucking problem.
So, okay, I'm looking through this. Yeah, it seems like he's trying to, like, Romans. What's that verse in Romans that Pelagia flips the table over?
Is it the one that says
there are no atheists?
Yeah, the no atheist arguments. Romans 1 something, Romans 1:19 maybe. But it's basically arguing that all men know God in their heart.
Romans 1:20. The chat is telling us.
Romans 1:20.
I think that sounds right.
Yeah,
It's
the idea that all humans know that God exists in their heart. They simply deny the existence of God, but there's a bunch of problems with that too. One problem is that whether somebody denies God in their heart, if we accept that God is omnipotent and all good, then we accept that God has influence over that heart. And if the Christian tries to argue a free will defense, you point out the fact that God literally fucked that whole argument over with the Pharaoh in the Old Testament when he literally hardened his fucking heart.
God being omnipotent and starting creation of the world, and then there's being any sort of recognition of causality, and God knowing the future makes that free will absurd in the Christian worldview. Because God is outside of time. God created the universe. He was the initiating factor. There is a fixed future. Like, if God is outside of time, is he able to see the future? Yeah. Because time doesn't matter to him.
Then the future is
set. So there's no free will. There's no free will at that point.
And if you try to say that
if God has all of these attributes, there's no free will.
But if God exists within time, he is now bound by the rules of time and therefore is less powerful.
Right. And this is the open theism thing. Open theists will be like, God is in fact inside time. But anyway, that's a whole fucking rant about Christian theology. But this idea of, like, atheists being God haters and therefore kind of believing in God in sort of a way, like, yeah, there are some atheists that are, like, dyed in the wool misotheists, you know what I mean? And misotheists, and that they kind of do believe in God a little bit.
No, mesotheists by definition do believe in God. That's how one becomes a mesotheist.
I was saying is, like, there are some atheists though that are kind of like that, but they're atheists still. Like, they don't live their life under the assumption that a God exists or anything like that. But they do spend a lot of time hating on him. Mm-hmm. Like, they don't have any praxis. They don't live their life believing that God affects them in some way, but they definitely spend a lot of time talking and thinking about it. It's that kind of thing. And like with that kind of atheist, you can be like, hey, you don't believe in God, but you sure are spending a lot of time on it, to the point where it's like significant. And the response usually is like, look, it affects me. You know, and that's a reasonable fucking point, in my opinion.
Yeah, because
But it still is the thing where you get this. It's like, you are God. You're like, you hate this thing.
and it's if you're dealing with like for me with the type of job that I do with this on YouTube. Well, of course I think about it a lot. I engage with it a lot because because people who use Christian fundamentalist methodology are constantly coming up with new ways of repolishing bad apologetics to try to explain God to someone who they want to turn into a bigot. And when that happens, I'm like, okay, obviously I've got to strike this at its foundation, and the foundation is the God belief in this particular instance. The belief in a very specific flavor of God, which leads somebody down the road of bigotry. You can't just go, well, no, your God doesn't like that, because the other person's come up with 1,001 responses using their Bible to say, no, my God is like this. Okay, cool. Then instead of trying to fight fire with fire, let's fight fire with water like a sane person, and manage and point out why this particular God belief is problematic, why it's potentially very logically inconsistent. And then you get people who try to argue that the Trinity is definitely logically consistent, and Ocean has fun with those people.
I love that conversation. I think it's fun. But yeah, so I don't know. The God hater, this usually, anti-theists aren't on this list, right?
Which is weird.
This is the 6th one, I think. No, this is the 5th one. And there's 2 more after that, and neither one of them are anti-theists.
Which means he hasn't engaged with the loudest
right.
atheists.
This is the closest one to it, I think. And it's, I mean, yeah, you know, would you agree with that?
Say that one more time?
This is the closest one to anti-theists.
It's close to anti-theist, but the thing is, though, is that the God hater generally has only been exposed to the Abrahamic God. Right. Whereas the anti-theist is just somewhat strangely.
Anti-theists are usually like they're against the idea. Sometimes they borrow from a couple of these types. Like they're oftentimes they're like, any belief in God leads to harmful acts or harmful positions, therefore all religion is harmful, kind of thing. And that's why they're an anti-theist. That's Jen, I would say that that's what he's doing, that he's trying to describe anti-theist but missing the mark, but he's actually describing something that does exist, which is your we call them what is it, baby crocodile atheists,
white belt atheists,
the ones that are like they're just became an atheist and they really want to attack everything, and they're just
yeah, we just call them angry atheists usually.
You call them angry atheists, I call them baby crocodiles, because they are baby crocodiles, like want to bite everything, and they're really aggressive. And new atheists, like people that just turn into atheists, are usually like, you know, they're a baby atheist, but they're very angry about it. You know what I mean? It's just
fair. I do like
they just learned religion is false, and they're so pissed that their entire life has been of 20 years or something.
There's one thing that I love about that whole phenomenon, though. It happens to most atheists. They get the angry atheist phase, which is why one of my favorite measurements is you get 1 year to be the angry atheist, and then you tone it the fuck down.
Yeah, you get 1 year grace period, and then shut the fuck up.
Also, I have decided that color mixing and or background farming is an issue, so we are now back to the office. The office changes colors, and we are back to the forge. So we are red as per Jen Aldrich's $5 donation. So
this is forgery.
Let's go to the 6th one. Anyway,
all right. So the 6th atheist. Anyway, but to finish my point, I think he's trying to. Maybe he's trying to talk about it. I think he misses anti-theists, because anti-theists are something just completely different than any of the types that he's actually talking about.
Jake 4D in the chat also says there's a big difference between mesotheism and atheists who hate the God concept, which is true. The thing is, though, the methodology the methodology is similar between the two, but no, they are different. A mesotheist has to
definitely different.
A mesotheist has to first be a theist to be a mesotheist.
One of the guys back in like Hangouts days that would show up in the scene a lot was this self-described misotheist. It was like, I believe that God exists, I just hate him. And it was, I had never met anybody that, like, it's when it's like you've bit the bullet so hard there's like a whole magazine in your stomach already.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, damn, bro, like, you are pissed. But yeah, it's like, no, I legitimately just hate God. And I was like, let me introduce you to a few Christians who think that you're an atheist, or that thinks that all atheists are you.
And they're just like, well, I'm not an atheist.
It's like, no, I believe in God, I just hate him.
So the sixth one said, let's talk about the sixth strain of atheism you look at, atheism without any faith in progress. Is it fair to say this is the most vigorous kind of atheism?
I didn't get this.
He goes, yes, I would say so. I use the example of the novelist
Vigorous? What?
Joseph Conrad. His atheism completely rejects the idea of progress, and yet he still admires human self-assertion in the face of a bleak situation that they cannot overcome. The thinker George Santayana is someone who was impressed by the beauty of religion but didn't want or need it for himself. They rejected the idea of the cosmos being rational.
Why does he think this is the most rigorous one? I don't get it.
He used the word vigorous.
What did I say?
You said rigorous.
Oh, vigorous. Oh, that is a, okay, cool. Okay. I was reading vigorous and coming off with rigorous. So
But that's, I don't understand.
I'm going to
how,
look up vigorous right now just to make sure.
like, it can perform very well in bed for long periods of time.
Strong, healthy, and full of energy.
I don't see how that's strong,
That's
healthy,
not-
and full of energy.
I don't feel that either.
How is having no faith in progress
It has much vigor.
being strong, healthy, and I'm so confused. How, though?
I don't get it.
If they're Tulpa
He even says at the end of the article that he likes this one, and I'm like, I don't understand what it is. And I've been like around the atheist world fairly long period of time. What I don't think that I've ever really seen this before.
I haven't. Oh,
To
no.
say that it has vigor would imply that there's some strength in numbers about it, but I don't get this described.
I feel like this is like the ill-informed atheistic nihilist is what this sounds like.
Yeah, I've met a few of those,
But
it's.
but the thing is, though, is that like if you
I don't know if that's how vigorous that is.
I don't know either, and even then, like one of the most prominent authors, when you think nihilism, most people think Friedrich Nietzsche. And like one of the first names that comes
He
to
was
mind.
all about like building your own meaning and all that kind of shit.
Yeah, 'cause
He's actually
his-
a fairly hopeful guy.
Well, the thing is that the way nihilism manifested in his writings was, yeah, there is no purpose to anything. Ultimately, that means you make
So
your
you
own.
can do what you want.
And that's
Right.
beautiful. Do that.
Right.
So I just
Isn't this hopeful? You know, like that. But instead, you get nihilists that are like, "Yeah, nothing is. There's no meaning, Lebowski.
and he's just like,
We believe in nothing, Lebowski."
yeah, dude. Go ahead and take your turn on the bowling alley, man. It's funny that actually is a religion, though.
Lebowski, Judaism.
Yeah,
Good friend of mine is a Buddhist priest.
nice.
He's conducted weddings. Yeah.
10
Wears
out
a
of 10.
bathrobe. Yeah.
I'll take it.
He's from Cuba and is like a revolutionary and is all this stuff, and he's like, no, yeah, I'm a Buddhist priest. You start talking with him about politics and he just rambles on forever, but then he's comes right back to it, and he's just like, doesn't mean anything, man, or it just goes off. The purpose to life can all be found in the dude.
Hellbound Hillbilly says some of this sounds like just a high school student trying to pad out a word count on a philosophy essay, which is funny because it's such a short.
Oh my god! Because it's a short article and it's written by a philosopher, so it's from an interview with a philosopher. That's the funny part about it.
It's so short. It has
Like-
such brevity, and yet it still has those. It still has
feel.
those aspects.
That fucking feel.
It's so bad. But let's go to the last kind.
Some philosophers will just talk out of their ass, like they're not actually any smarter than you. You know what I mean? Like, they just.
Which is why pragmatism is useful.
Oh
That's
no!
that's a tautology, Ocean.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Here we go.
So
Pragmatism is useful. Oh my fuck!
it took you a second.
Good God!
You're right, Ocean.
Serious. No.
You got to read the beginning, and I gotta finish in a bad voice.
Oh, gods. You've entered this mystical kind of atheism, almost like people who have a big drug experience and talk about the oneness of everything.
Oh God, my brain just went to three
Should I
different
read it in
voices
Jordan
and stopped.
Peterson?
No.
Well.
Well, I like beer.
Are you going to read it as Brett Kavanaugh?
I am now Kermit the Jordan Peterson, Brett Kavanaugh liking beer. Boofing is farting.
Beer.
The devil's triangle is not a threesome.
I'm gonna look at my calendar, and my calendar is gonna tell us all about what happened 30 years ago.
I routinely keep calendars from 30 years. I do not have
My father would bring out the calendars and read them to us as bedtime stories, and I was excited about this. Because I'm a weird kid.
and that's why I would make a good Supreme Court justice. Well,
Vote for me.
it is a
I'm
radical
Brett
kind.
Kavanaugh.
It is a radical kind of atheism that asserts that the nature of reality is inevitable. It can't be embodied in words. Schopenhauer thought the ultimate reality of things was spiritual, but we couldn't really grasp its meaning with our reasoning. He didn't have any need for a creator god, but actually he isn't so far from certain traditions in mysticism and different religions. Some types of mystical religion come close to atheism in their understanding of God as unimaginable. Okay, so first of all, we need to talk. That is not atheism. That is a type of non-cognitivism. That is an igtheist, not an atheist. Holy shit! You are fucking dumb for a philosopher! Igtheism is not atheism!
Oh yeah, the last part of that's non-cognitivist, isn't it?
Yes, that is a non-cog position. That's not atheism.
It's non-cog.
That's somebody stepping aside.
I just read the last sentence and I was like, this is atheism, and then it gets to the end. Oh no, that's non-cog.
That's non-cognitivism. That is theological non-cognitivism is not atheism.
But a non-cognitivist lacks a belief in God, sirs. That means it's a subset.
I only accept such kinds of nested hierarchies within official structures, and I'm sorry, but that's a colloquial one.
It's a Russian doll.
But like, okay, so the idea that I'm gonna say a statement, and it's gonna be with the same energy as this statement. And when you read through it again, you'll see. Wow, I have a little bit of that Kermit stuck in my voice still.
Yeah, it's there. It's still there.
I'm so sorry.
It's still fucking there. I'm gonna explain to you.
All right, guys,
I'm so angry right now.
It's time to sit down for church. No, so I'm going to say something, and it's going to have the same energy as what he just said here. You tell me if it has the same energy, Ocean. I need you to verify this. As a Christian, you are nightmarishly close to atheists. It's just that you reject 99% of gods, and I go one step further than those.
Pagans have picked that shit up and run with it, by the way. Pagans love that shit. Have you heard me go on that rant? Have I got on that rant with you?
I don't think so, actually.
Oh, no, Christians are atheists.
Oh. Actually, per the way the Romans defined atheism, that's correct.
Yes.
That's how the Romans defined atheism. Those who reject the pantheon of the gods are the atheists, and those who reject the rule of Rome are the barbarians.
Yes.
That was the dichotomies they worked with.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. History is fucked. I'm gonna drink diet.
So
Dr. Pepper.
the atheists that go, I just deny one more God than you do. And pagans go, yeah, both of you are definitely atheists.
So
we agree with the atheist over here that Christians, you're basically what this guy is. But if you guys want to argue with each other, that's great. Have fun.
But again, do you agree that that whole like some of these get very close to atheism, but they don't go that one extra step? That has the same fucking energy to me. Are
you talking about like with this last one basically being like a spiritualist?
Yeah,
because there's you get atheists that believe in like a oneness thing. Those atheists that are like really into Hinduism, and by into Hinduism I mean they read Ram Dass.
You mean they watched Evangelion?
Not quite. Like, okay.
Yes,
anybody,
but no.
H in the chat if you know who Ram Dass is. Let me know if you guys know what I'm talking about with this, because if you don't, I'm going to teach you a little bit of something about the weirdness of drug culture and the atheism that shows up there.
Actually, wait, this is the DMT thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is...
except psilocybin. He was... So Ram Dass... all right, I'm seeing a lot of G's, so I'm going to explain Ram Dass. Ram Dass, according to his book, Be Here Now, which is a square book that has a lot of like brown paper in it. He's a Harvard professor that hung out with people like Timothy Leary, and did a lot of psilocybin. And I want to say he also hung out with Aldous Huxley. Maybe. Anyway, so they were doing a bunch of fucking drugs. A bunch of like psilocybin that he got his hands on. And he discovered like the oneness of the self and the dance of spiritual life and all this other kind of stuff. And then quit his job and ran off to India, and was white in India, and had his spiritual journey there, meeting various yogis and giving them drugs and having conversations with them and doing drugs with them, and eventually claims that he found somebody that psilocybin didn't affect, and this became his master. And then he wrote this book that had it's a lot of like drawings and stuff about like little elements of life, and some of it's good shit. Like I read it once sober and then once on acid, and was like, this is interesting. And it was whatever. But like at the end of the day, it's just like a weird surface level understanding of Hinduism as expressed by somebody that could be considered an atheist, like the I am God type, you know what I mean? That it's on the basis
God
of,
is everything, everything is one, I am everything,
yeah,
I am
it's
God.
that kind of shit. It's that kind of, which is what he's talking about. It's the psilocybin atheist.
You know what that sounds like to me?
Sup.
Bar.
You see my Twitter handle?
No, I didn't actually.
Go take a look at my Twitter handle.
Gotta go to Twitter during this stream. Let's do it. Let's take a look at Ocean's Twitter. Where is... Fucking... You haven't tweeted in a while, so I just have to actually fucking physically look up your name.
I haven't tweeted in a while. I just retweeted Shannon.
Ocean the bar. Because he used to be Ocean the Barbarian.
Yes.
Ocean the bar.
But now I've completed the journey. But anyway, the blah. So Ram Dass is this kind of atheist. It's hard to describe him as an atheist because he was really sort of a pantheist. But his pantheism to some could be described as atheism. It's a thing. But you get some people in drug culture that find this particular book, mind you, and then jump through it, and then they are in the moment types now. And they still shit on religion as a result. But they consider people like Lao Tzu to be like enlightened beings, and they listen to a lot of Alan Watts. And I went through kind of an Alan Watts period. I was like,
At least you didn't go through an Ayn Rand period.
No, I didn't. But I still like Alan Watts. Like Alan Watts, in his like descriptions of Taoism are like some good meditations. Like it's good shit. And even Ram Dass can be good shit. But you got to understand that Ram Dass is surface level, and Alan Watts was trying to introduce the West to Eastern thought, and didn't delve into it as deeply as maybe you should have. You know what I mean? But you get like simplified ideas from both of them, which makes sense because they were both trying to be introductory.
Yeah, I mean that's.
But
fair.
some people look at them as complete images, and that's just not how you like. If you want to learn Hinduism and the only person you're listening to is Alan Watts, then you would need to do some more reading. You know,
I think that.
but that's a lot of people will listen to Alan Watts and they'll be like a kind of spiritualist, atheist, Hinduist mix with Taoism, and they'll just say that they're spiritual, you know. But if you look at them for any sort of cohesive theology or anything that has sort of like any veracity to it, you're not going to find it because it's just like they're too busy talking about prickly people and squishy people. I'm talking shit right now, but you know, it's the kind of a lot of stuff I'm saying doesn't really make sense unless you've been down that road with Alan Watts. But you know, if anybody hasn't listened to Alan Watts or read Ram Dass's Be Here Now, I suggest looking at it because it's good shit. It's just don't stop there. That's all I would say.
Basically, like with atheism, do not stop with Dawkins and Hitchens.
Right.
If you're gonna,
that's the thing that happens, is complacency in the exploration of these subjects is a bane of it.
like you get the agnostic
Like-
atheist who goes, "Wait, who was Thomas Huxley? I don't understand."
Right.
And then you're just like, "Wait, that you're a what?"
Blink.
It's like you're a what now, and you don't know the guy who coined the term that you're fucking messing. Okay, yeah, cool, excellent, 10 out of 10. You did it. You did it.
It's like, no, I read The God Delusion once, and now I think religion is wrong. You know, and you get some of that, where people will get to a certain point and then they'll stop.
God Delusion, famously
And
the
if-
book that says
if
that
you
all
wanna-
religions are cargo cults.
If you want to delve into these topics, you can't stop. It sucks, but it's true. There's complacency is going to be the bane of being able to have any intellectual discussion on this shit. So anywho, yeah, but like a lot of people will read Ram Dass and Alan Watts and stop, and then they'll be in this like interesting place of spiritualism that it's not bad. Like, you know, it's a nice place to be, but it's not. You're also like adopting from shit that you don't understand if you're just sitting there with those two. Anywho, I've spent enough time on that, but I think that's the kind of atheist that he's talking about at the end there, which isn't really an atheist. Like, those people will talk about, they just see God differently than a lot of people, including polytheists and Christians and so on.
They believe in a god. Their concept of a god is just so thoroughly divorced from what most people consider God. They go, yeah, that's an atheist.
Yeah, kind of. It's the way to describe the kind of God that they're talking about is one that is kind of panentheistic. However, the panentheistic image of it is one that includes themselves as the conscious being that is God, and that the conscious being of the self that is God is one with the rest of the universe and is one with everybody else that is a conscious being as well. And that all of the collective conscious beings themselves together are also God. But it becomes fairly meaningless. It's actually has a lot in common with Jordan Peterson's God.
I was also going to say that gets dangerously close to solipsism in methodology.
No, it's more like if God was the idealist projection of all mental thought.
Oh, so it's closer to an argument
from philosophical idealist perspective,
it's like,
not like ideological. Like,
it's like fucking forms.
Yeah.
There is a perfect manifestation of thought, and that is God. And every time we have a thought, it is an imperfect manifestation of the perfect form of thought.
When you get into Alex Gray's art, for example, this is a lot of what he's actually painting, are these concepts of ascending spirituality kind of shit, of this image of God. And if you look at anybody that's in the audience, if you want to like check out Alex Gray. His art is very interesting. But it's also this kind of stuff where it's like shit that you would see on DMT or the kind of thoughts that you have when you're influenced by
God is a
psilocybin.
platonic ideal.
But yeah, Like that's a whole world. But you know, like it's the Ram Dass, Alan Watts, Alex Gray, like those, they're not the same thing, but they're related, and they're all talking about this kind of like experience that is psychedelic as fuck.
And is also just one step left of Platonism.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, kind of. But it's hard to relate Platonism to all that. Alan Watts also doesn't talk about Platonism, so I don't know how it would necessarily connect.
It's very the world of forms.
Yeah. The way that Alan Watts describes it is actually that God is a series of roles.
That sounds delicious.
No, not biscuits. I'm talking about like that God is a series of that. Everything's a play, and we're all playing the part, but all the parts are being played by one God. Right.
Oh, that's
so
just...
that say you and I are both God, playing different roles at different points of the play.
Everyone is Jesus, and determinism is true.
Right.
Cool.
No, that's the thing, is that Ram Dass even talks about this. So people that think they're Jesus are actually right.
Yeah, that's okay then.
So but the reason why they're right is because this is Jesus just going on another trip.
So hold on. So what you're saying is when I am expressing bread, and I'm trying to give bread to my audience.
Michael Conning is saying I'm not high enough for this discussion. No, this is a kind of like, this is what he's talking about in the article, though, guys. This is what he's talking about.
He thinks this is.
I happen to understand this shit.
He also thinks this
I've gotten high and had these conversations. I know what's going on. I've read these fucking books, sober and high. So fuck off.
I've never watched The Wall while not sober. Because I've also never
seen The Wall, in fairness.
Wait, really?
I need to do that. No, I have not.
You need to. It's very good.
Yeah.
There's a judge with a fucking testicle chin. It's great. I know that's not a ringing endorsement. I was routinely the type of person in school that would literally take school projects strictly for how absurd I could make the final product when I presented it to the class. So when talking about whether or not humanity was truly good or truly evil, I was like, okay, let's bring up Pink Floyd's The Wall, just so I can show the entire class testicle chins. To talk about humanity being truly good or truly evil.
I need to get my hookah out for the rest of this discussion.
Sir, Jen says, you've never seen it sober. It may not be good. No. I have never not been sober. I have always been sober my entire life, outside of if I'm sitting on a hospital bed. So every time I've viewed The Wall, which has been about 5 or 6 times
straight
now,
edge, y'all.
I've always viewed it sober. I have done.
I, on the other hand,
not so much.
Right. It's not so much that.
So, he concludes this interview by going, these are the ones I like best. They're the most rigorous in stepping outside.
Right, and it's the ones that we hate here in this conversation. Right, so I don't, not hate, but the ones that I'll rant about the most. Which it's the nihilistic one who, and it just hates progress, and the one who's like, you know, went down this weird journey of mysticism. And it's like
the ones who
okay,
get it the most wrong are the ones he likes the most.
Yeah, I don't think the Ram Dass people get it wrong necessarily. I just think it's oversimplified. That's all. Like it's a I don't, having understood it, like I went down that path long enough to kind of get my mind around it, and then I was like, this ain't it for me. I'm just gonna go over here now. So, and like I can talk about it, you know, but I also am like, the stuff that it's referencing it's oversimplifying it, and it's far more influenced by what the mind is on drugs than what the mind is, you know. And
it's not.
I think that
they're using
what the
drugs
mind
as
is
a
on,
key, as opposed to seeing drugs as a thing that alters you.
Right. Well, I mean, and I think that there's some value in that because, you know, the way that the mind works while influenced by these kind of things, it's incredibly interesting, right? And there's a lot of conversations to be had about spirituality with respect to what happens when you're influenced by these substances. But it's also not the complete picture. And I think that the mistake that some people make is that they'll go, I had an experience while I was on drugs, and this is the reason why I'm religious, and so on. You hear that every once in a while. And that's not a good reason, first. And second, it's not a complete image of spirituality. Otherwise, in order to be spiritual, you'd have to be constantly on drugs. Right? And that doesn't make sense. So...
I can only make sense of the world when I'm doped.
Right.
That's...
Like, if you have to be on drugs in order to really... yeah. It's like they're leaning on it to have a theological position.
Yeah, which is... That's actually not terribly far off from some of the shit Jordan Peterson's advocated for, though. Jordan Peterson has said specifically that without a spiritual experience, and he considers, like, drug taking to be a spiritual experience, without a spiritual experience, somebody couldn't quit something like smoking, for instance. With his idea of...
Jordan Peterson brings that up, I think.
He does quite a few times.
So this guy SL in the chat is like, Ocean is trying to invoke Jordan Peterson at this point. I'm actually trying not to. Because... Peterson will talk about drug influence in spirituality and discuss that as a reason for, and was one of the dumbest arguments that I think he makes. But, anywho,
you need to clean your room before you try talking about the methodological substrate of somebody else's being.
Y'all missed if you're talking about I'm trying to evoke Jordan Peterson. Y'all missed earlier in the show where I was Jordan Peterson, so calm down.
So what you're saying is actually that this is closer to what
There's too many instances in this stream.
No, there are not too many instances in this stream. Look.
Well played.
This is not an instance. This is west of Darkshore. No. This is an instance. This is the Deep Run tram. I'm sorry. This is also not an instance. This is the outside of fucking Black Rock Mountain. There are 4 instances. Wait, hold on. 5 instances in this mountain, but this is not an instance. Is it 5 instances in the mountain? Hold on.
Oh my fucking god, where are we? Okay, so we're going back to this article. It's over. What have we learned, Cyrus?
We've learned that this dude needs to meet more atheists. He has not seen pragmatic atheists.
He hasn't seen pragmatic atheists and anti-theists.
Correct.
Yeah. Those are 2 big ones.
Like, and they're the ones that we probably interact with the most out of everyone. Like
we do, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
actually, I bump into a bunch of the Scientism types.
I tend to avoid them. I think they're dumb.
Right.
I think,
and I think that he's also missing out the constantly questioning atheists. Like one of the kind of atheists that I would bump into that's always the most fascinating, the ones that, what I was saying, that there's like a complacency that's the bane of this conversation. Mm-hmm. There's the atheist that simply will not stop, and it's fucking awesome.
You mean the hyper skeptic?
No. The ones that are constantly have their nose in a philosophy book, constantly going to town on everybody's ideas around them and that kind of thing. They're kind of debate bros. You know what I mean? But they are wicked good at it. Because they understand the ins and outs of several philosophical problems. And those guys are cool as fuck. I love talking to those. But they're incredibly challenging, and they're the ones that, like, a lot of Christians and atheists, mind you, will not talk to, because a lot of them are upset with, like, they'll be like, yes, I'm an atheist, but I don't consider myself part of that community or the movement or any of that crap. I'm just me.
They see a lot of that as like bottom of the barrel stuff.
Yeah, they're just like, they're just having a conversation I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
But then you get into a debate with them, and they're usually extremely knowledgeable, and it's really fucking cool.
I've actually met a few of those during the time of the prevalence of the Great Debate community. I'd met a few of them during that.
Yeah, there were a few of them in there. It was like 10 or 20 of them in that. They were like that. That's one of the reasons why it's a type of atheist, because there are a lot of them, and they're really fucking cool.
Like that? I just typed one.
No.
Okay.
But associated with it. Yeah.
Oh, I know who you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So-
Yep. That said, so what we learned today is that this guy needs to become, if he's going to write a book on types of atheists, maybe, just maybe, associate with a few more different types of atheists so that you can actually talk about them. This is like, this is the equivalent of saying the different kinds of Christianity, and you leave out Catholicism.
Right.
Blink, blink.
Catholicism and Baptists. They're just not there for whatever reason.
Let's just leave out the ones that are currently incredibly
But
prominent.
he goes
on the
into
internet.
immense detail on Presbyterians, and I'm like, okay, all right, fine. But, it's incomplete. I didn't like this list.
No.
I agreed with some of his criticisms. I disagreed with more of his criticisms than I agreed with, I think. Because I also think his criticisms are missing the mark as well. And I say that as somebody who criticizes atheism a lot.
Yeah.
But I think he's not. It's a bad article. Not a bad article. Like whoever wrote the article is covering something, but this guy's takes are not the best on atheism.
No, they're not.
So.
0 out of 10 would not read book.
More like 5 out of 10, but still wouldn't read book.
You're granting a lot. I'll compromise.
I'm granting a lot because let's say some of his observations are all right.
2 out of 10.
He's covering some stuff that I didn't think about. But because I don't think about the Ram Dass type because I never run into them. They're not around.
They're not the most vigorous kinds. They're
right.
They're just not represented.
The most vigorous.
I guess we will leave with a bit of advice. Nightshade in the chat asks, thoughts on cutting out toxic family members. Ocean's thoughts on this too. Ocean, I will let you do that one as we close out.
Depends on the toxic. Is this a toxic that is affecting you a lot? Right, and that's also like there's a lot of subjectivity here. But is it a hard no, never cut out toxic family members? Of course not. There's sometimes you got to cut out a toxic family member. If the toxicity is negatively affecting you at a point where you can't operate very much, you know what I mean? Get rid of it. Like, you shouldn't be caught up in a cycle of abuse simply. This is the standard. You shouldn't be caught up in a cycle of abuse simply because you're related to somebody.
I could agree with that standard. I think mine is, and maybe it's because I have a few recent interactions here. A family member who was like a few that are very anti-BLM, so I've engaged in conversations with them a lot, and in so doing, uncovering some layers of bigotry I didn't realize were there. My position is this. There's 3 types of family members here. There's the kind you can avoid completely without any negative effects to your life. There's the kind who are routinely in close proximity to you, and then there are the kind you live with. That's the first thing to consider. Which, like, how much does this one affect me? Is it the cousin from like 15 states away that I don't interact with ever, and they just happen to be toxic? There's probably not going to be much of a difference when you cut them out of your life. Is it the person who routinely is somewhat near in proximity, but isn't quite there? Like as an example, I live on a property that is an acre away from the property that my parents own. I am able to routinely avoid, if I so choose, simply by staying inside my house. I can do that. But alternatively, if I go there, then I don't have that option. And then there's obviously the third one, that you're not going to be able to cut somebody out who you live with. That's you have to actually exit that situation completely.
You need to leave or something like that. But it's still not a problem if you do so. You know what I mean? There's not like a moral issue with exiting the cycle of abuse, in my opinion.
You choose the people that you want to associate with on a day-to-day basis. Determine where they are on the proximity scale and determine where they are on a scale of abuse. Is their bigotry, like, they're transphobic, but they're only mildly so and only when the conversation's brought up and you are also not trans? Then challenge them when it comes up. Please try to change their mind, but it doesn't affect you that much.
Here's another thing as well. Are you
I was gonna point out that like the other
ahead.
side of that is if you do happen to be trans or have trans friends, which most people in the audience I would assume
Do.
have trans friends, then this affects you much more, and potentially bringing the conversation to them would be good. And if they refuse to be non-toxic about it, if they continue being toxic, then at that point, hey, having you in my life is a negative effect on me. It's a negative effect on the people I want to associate with. I am choosing, for the time being, I am choosing to leave this because changing your mind is not my responsibility.
Here's another standard that I've got 2 videos on my channel regarding frith and grith, which are concepts that I find to be very important for managing this kind of thing. So one is about frith and family, which is essentially like you can talk about having coming out conversations with family. And the other one is about frith and grith, about the heathen tools of diplomacy. Now, the idea of grith is that even if you have great disagreements with somebody, or if you come from different backgrounds with somebody or something like that. So let's just take a toxic family member for an example. If you have some sort of issue with them, you can say, grandma's house, or whatever it is, however you're meeting them, is a place of grith. We are going to be nice to each other in this environment.
Evangelical Thanksgiving rules.
If you can't, I'm leaving. Right?
Yeah, you can't.
Because
you
you
can't
violated that mutual respect. If you're not going to be respecting me in this space, and when I'm respecting you in this space, then I'm going to fuck off. And they've got a little bit of advice about doing that, and one of the big ones is control your exit. But as far as like relating that to cutting off family members that are toxic as fuck, if you cannot make grith work, even if you cannot make that situation work with this person, especially if it's like a multiple times situation of attempting this, fuck them. And I strongly, because that's a situation in which you're trying, it's excusing a cycle of abuse simply because you're related to somebody, and that's no matter the proximity. You know, if it's somebody that's far away or close to you, or whatever the fuck is.
You've traveled to a location where it was agreed upon. Do not do these toxic
fucking
things.
do this, and then they violated that, and then it's like, well, okay, well, you have no respect for me at that point.
Yeah, and
So why should we continue this?
And they've demonstrated that. At that point, it's okay. We're
Right.
not. I am choosing not to be there, and then at that point, you call the grandma up and you go, "Hey, is Johnny going to be at the next Thanksgiving? Because if so, then I'm not going to be there." That doesn't mean don't invite Johnny. That just means that's my standard now. I'm sorry. Like, I get that it's Georgia, but come on. If there's a family member who's a bigot, fuck them.
Fuck 'em.
Ocean 2020. My answer whenever someone
Proceed
says
to have sex immediately.
my answer, we're a state away from that. That's Alabama. But my answer generally,
Yeah, don't. Yeah, it's Georgia, but it ain't Alabama. Why do the trees on the east side of the Chattahoochee lean to the west? Well, it's because Alabama sucks.
the my standard whenever somebody tries to say, "Wow, those guys suck. Fuck them," I'll just go, "No, don't fuck them. I don't want them to breed. Don't." But that all said, if you guys enjoyed this very strange episode of Hammered Out, then please
Surreal
leave a like.
voices.
That said, here in about 20-ish minutes, if you guys still would like to hang out, I am going to be hosting some gaming over on my Twitch stream. So if you'd if you would like to go follow me over on Twitch, I'm going to be doing some League of Legends over there, potentially some World of Warcraft, I don't know. We will see. But if you guys want to keep hanging out, in 20 minutes I'll be there, which means 25 minutes and then a 5-minute grace period because I'm late habitually.
Also, put the bread down.
No. Thank you all for coming out to Hammered Out. Please leave a like. Share with your friends if you don't want to.
Happy Thursday.
If you don't like what you saw, you already said something in the comment section. Go to DDLG Playground. Use my coupon code to get something to go fuck yourself. See ya.
Subscribe to Cirrus if you haven't already. Subscribe to me.